councillors, senior staff members, members of the public in the gallery, and also to Emily in the press gallery. Very warm welcome to our June council meeting. So we also say welcome to those people that are on the live streaming. Welcome to you. Unfortunately, we're a little bit late starting, 5 minutes, due to a couple of technical issues. I just think we'll move straight into our opening procedures, councillors, and the appropriate thing is we acknowledge country. The Shire of Esplance acknowledges the Kepakul Wodjeri people of the Noongar Nation and the Naju people, who are the traditional custodians of this land and their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and we extend that respect to other Aboriginals today. Councillors, I'd just like to welcome Renee Poot, and Renee will be making a presentation to us in a few minutes. I'll call you up at the appropriate time, Renee. Thank you very much. She represented us at the Tourism Awards last week when we were all enjoying our time at the RAC Caravan Park at a tourism sundowner. Renee was working for us in Perth, so she'll be making a presentation to us. Councillors, we have apologies from Councillor O'Donnell, who has a leave of absence, and Holly Phillips, our Director of External Services, who is down with the COVID. Are there any other apologies? We have all councillors present, still senior staff present, except Holly. Okay. So then we go to leave of absence, applications for leave of absence. Is any councillor applying for leave of absence? No, except me. Okay, I'll ask for leave of absence from the 1st of July for 10 days. Is someone prepared to move that the application for leave of absence be moved? Thank you. Moved by Councillor O'Donnell, seconded by Councillor Chambers. Put to the vote. Those in favour, please show. That is carried, 8 votes to nil. Announcement by the person presiding without discussion. I have nothing to announce just at this stage. So we go to item 6 on the agenda, which is the declarations of members' interests. So declarations of financial interest. Any councillor declaring financial interest? Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to declare a financial interest in item 12.4.6, which is a review of the policy elected member staff training, as I'm currently enrolled to do the Diploma of Local Government.
Thank you. And Councillor De Haas.
I too would like to disclose an interest in 12.4.6 review policy elected members and staff training policies, as I have an application in progress to do my diploma in local government.
Thank you. Any other financial interest, councillors? If not, we move to proximity interest. Any proximity interests, councillors? No proximities. Then we go to the declaration of impartiality interests. Any impartiality interests? Councillor De Haas.
I would like to declare an impartiality interest in 12.4.4 clock tower funding request, as I have 2 family members who are members of the Esplance Mini Railway.
Thank you. Any further impartiality interests? No? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. We go now to item 7 on our agenda, question time. Any members of the public here who wish to ask any questions of council? No? Okay, then we move on. Public addresses and deputations, and this is where I'd like to invite Renee to come forward. Please, Renee, if you'd come up to the lectern there, I think, and could somebody switch on so that the people that are... Thank you, Emily.
Thank you very much. Shire President Mr Ian Mickle and fellow councillors. Yes, last week I had the opportunity to attend the 2022 WA Tourism Conference, which was in Perth. As you may know, I'm a newbie on the field of tourism with Esplance Farm Experience, and it was my first participation in such a tourism conference. I knew that Esplance had been shortlisted for the Top Tourism Award, and I was quite excited to get a phone call from Trevor saying, "You know that we're shortlisted, Renee?" "Yes." "You know that if we get an award, would you be able to accept it on behalf of Esplance?" So I wrote down a few notes for a bit of a speech, just in case we got number one. However, we were awarded third place, and I will hand this over in a moment. But and I'm guessing that would be to you, Ian. Yes, okay. Just really what I really wanted to say was just to congratulate Esplance and our Shire and our whole community, because 10 years ago, I believe, with the foreshore redevelopment, it really opened up people's eyes to what could be seen and done here in Esplance, and certainly with the recent jetty being finished, and the tourism strategy was fantastic, culminating in the recent appointment of Simon Latchford as the tourism development manager. Really has put us in a prime place for tourism, and with international borders opening, there was quite a lot of talk at the Tourism Expo about what is to come, and I really think our next step would be to really put Esplance on the map as somewhere to drive to over a 10-day tour, but safely, because we're not just an overnight destination, and we're not Margaret River, and they don't want wineries. They want authentic, genuine experiences that we can give here in Esplance in spades. And I think we really need to work on that fly-in, drive-out, or drive-in, fly-out for internationals, so they can hire a car and not have to do the whole lot. We want to, so I really think that we need to be able to option up the things that are here in Esplance. I think we certainly need to be working through to get people mobile down to our beautiful spot that we have. So I think we've come a long way from the agricultural sector, where we were all a bit worried about terrorists in town, to actually welcoming tourism in town is fantastic. And I was very, very pleased and honoured to be able to receive this award on behalf of Esplance, and I would like to present this to, yes, our Shire President, and just congratulate Trevor Ayres and his team at the Visitor Centre. It was a very, very professional presentation, and that was screened throughout the whole tourism kind of conference, and I don't know if you should cancel what. Thank you. But yeah, congratulations to you all. It was fantastic to be part of. Any questions?
Look, I don't think there's
That's it.
any questions. Renee, could I, on behalf of my fellow councillors, sincerely thank you for that, doing that duty for us, and for presenting the lovely trophy to Councillor Chambers, the Deputy Shire President, on the council's behalf.
Yeah,
and I'd like to also thank you for your passion in tourism. You were at that conference, but yes, with your own business, you have raised the profile of agricultural tourism here in Esplance, and I congratulate you on that, and I think it's really helping, adding to the things that people can see in Esplance. And I know you tell a very, very good story. You educate people while you're doing it. It's very much part of what you're looking to achieve. And could I also, before I close off, congratulate you on also being elected the new president of the Esplance Bay Rotary Club. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please, Mr CEO, just congratulate your staff people that have been involved in the Tourism Award applications, and the fact that we have won that award, third in the States, is, certainly very good. We'd all like to win the first prize in it, and I think we have in the past somewhere won a first prize, but the industry, I think, is working hard to raise the profile of tourism here in Esplance, and I'm sure that one day it'll be the first prize coming back to us. And it's particularly when people like Renee have taken a real interest in this. Councillors, it's time to move on with the agenda, and so we go to petitions, item 9. Mr CEO, do we have any petitions?
Yeah, we do, Mr President, and we've received a petition from the the community of Mongina, and just in relation to 1080 baiting, so we'll table that. And we've got a motion there if council wish to receive that petition and also give us some instruction on what they'd like to do with it.
Thank you. So is anyone prepared to move the motion and we'll take it. So Councillor Oborn, you'd like to read the motion for us, please?
I move that council receive the petition titled Petition Against Use of 1080 Baits in Monginup Special Rural Zone. That was tabled via email on the 23rd of June 2022, and request the CEO to prepare a report for council consideration at the...
Oh, well, if council give us, maybe a month or 2 months.
at the August ordinary council meeting,
Okay, so
or September?
At or before, you could say.
At or before the August ordinary council meeting.
thank you, Councillor Oborn. Is there a second? A second by Councillor McMullen. Councillor Oborn, do you wish to speak to that motion?
On the fly, because this is the first I've seen the petition, but I've heard about it.
It's just about receiving the petition.
Oh, yeah,
It's not
good.
the detail of the issue.
We've all heard about the issue that happened recently, so I think obviously we want to give the community a chance to have their say in receiving the petition, and I look forward to hearing what the CEO brings back.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? No? Does seconder wish to speak to the motion? Okay.
I'm just wondering whether the special rural zone applies in this case because I believe the boats were used in a rural zone, and so whether accepting this changes nothing.
That's a technicality. Perhaps we can resolve that in the report from the CEO. Are you wishing to speak against it? Do you want to be recorded speaking against it, Councillor Graham?
Not speaking against it, I'm just the technicality of what's in the motion and whether it will achieve anything because the use of it was in a rural zone, and although the effect is in the special rural zone, it just needs to be taken on board.
Thank you. Well, I think the CEOs will make note of that. So is there a speaker against the motion? No speakers against. Speaker in favour? Speaker against or an amendment? Put to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried 8 votes to nil. So it's the dealing with the petitions. Confirmation of the minutes. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary council meeting of the 24th of May 2022. Someone prepared to move the confirmation? Moved by Councillor De Haas, second by Councillor Flanagan. You wish to read the motion, Councillor De Haas?
That the minutes of the ordinary council meeting of the 24th of May 2022 be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Thank you. And you're still prepared to second that, Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, and so does it need any debate, councillors? No. So we put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried 8 votes to nil. We go to delegates' reports for discussion, and we have first up Councillor Oborn.
I was remiss in sending mine through, so I could pass these on to the minutes secretary or call them out, whichever one you think's easiest at this point.
I think it's probably better that you hand them to the minutes secretary, and they'll be utilised by being printed in that. Did you wish to highlight anything from that, councillor? Okay,
No, thank
so
you.
we go to Councillor Flanagan.
No amendment, thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, so then we go to Councillor Chambers, is it? O'Donnell sent, Councillor O'Donnell has sent hers in. Yes, they're all there for us. And then we go to Councillor Chambers, I think is...
Again, Chair, I was remiss in sending mine in, but the only one that I had was the meeting with the Minister for Fisheries and Small Business on the 9th of June.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
Yeah, just add on the 31st of May, also attended the Water Minister to Wongatha, and also at the Noel White Centre a roundtable community meeting on water as well on the 31st of May. And also with Mr Rick Wilson on the 21st of June. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor De Haas.
If I could just have a couple of small amendments on mine, please. Could I have my surname spelt correctly? And the ECCI Business After Hours, the one I attended was not hosted by Biodiverse Solutions, it was just one more stitch. Take out the bio as well.
Give a moment for
Thank
the
you.
minute secretary to get one right. Okay, got the thumbs up. So then we go on to Councillor Horan.
Yeah, there's just one date on there. I attended the opening of Shelley Payne's office on the 26th of May.
Thank you. And then Councillor McMullen.
Yes, as tabled, I do have a few additions, but I'll get them to the minute secretary.
Okay, thank you. And looks like my computer didn't work. I thought I'd send it in. So I'll hand it to you and go forward. Well, the only one I would highlight on accounts was that I did represent the council at the switching of the lights at the Ports Football Oval. Pretty special night to be there because of the very bright lights. The footballers loved them. I can assure you of that. That was something really quite unique in that respect. We watched the senior grade, the A grade football match, and it's probably the best night vision that I've had on football here in Esplance. So magnificent outcome. And for the for our work with the Ports Football Club is a certificate of appreciation to the Shire of Esplance in recognition for their valuable contribution to our Lights project, signed by Mr Terry Buckley, Club President. So I'll hand that to the CEO for display. Okay, so then we move on from there, councillors. We move into the matters requiring a determination of council. And this is on page 11 of your agenda. The first item is item 12.1.1, external services development application, industrial shed lot 201 Beach Street, Castletown. Are there any questions you might have to Mr Richard Hinley in regards to this item, councillors? If not, is someone prepared to move the draft recommendation, which is on page 13 of your agenda? Yeah, Councillor McMullen.
Yes, I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation that council approve development application 10.2022.5000.1 for an industrial building at lot 201 to Beach Street, Castletown, subject to the following conditions 1 through 14 and the following advice notes 1 through 12.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor McMullen. Is someone prepared to second the motion? Seconded by Councillor Flanagan. Councillor McMullen, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Just very briefly, noting that there was a non-objection received from the adjoining landowner and no other referrals were deemed necessary. And it's good to see a construction business doing so well that they're looking to expand on their premises.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a speaker against the motion? Would the speaker, would the seconder like to speak in favour?
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Mr President.
Okay, so is there a speaker against? Is there any amendments? I put the motion to vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried 8 votes to nil. We now go to item 12.1.2, development application at Frank Freeman Drive. That item is on page 27 of your agendas, and the recommendation is on page 31. Are there any questions you might have to Mr. Henley on this item? No questions? So someone prepared to move the motion? Councillor prepared to move the motion? Right. Final call. Councillor prepared to move the motion? Motion lapses for the want of a mover. Haven't had this before. I've had them lapse because of a seconder, but I've never had it before with it. So it sits on the table. Is that correct, Mr. CEO?
Just through the chair, this actual item could actually go for a deemed refusal if it's not considered by council before the 90 days is up.
If it's not dealt with.
The proponent could take a deemed refusal and go to SAT.
Okay, thank you. You're aware of that, councillors? And I've called 3 times for a mover and never got one, so that's the normal procedure. I think that's the best way to deal with it. I honestly do think we should deal with it if possible now, and as the rules have been pointed out by Mr. Henley, so I deemed that we couldn't handle with it, but I apologise if I haven't given you time to move forward, and I'm in this instance I'll accept the mover being Councillor McMullen. So the motion is moved. Did you wish to read the motion that you're moving, Councillor McMullen?
Not in its entirety, it's very long, but the officer's recommendation that council approve the development application for a single house and ancillary dwelling at lot 21, Frank Freeman Drive, Bandy Creek, subject to the following conditions 1 through 16 and 1 through 12.
Okay, so Councillor McMullen has moved the motion, as you've heard. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Flanagan. Councillor McMullen, you can speak to your motion.
Very briefly, I mean, noting that there is an objection here, obviously. However, I guess I'm taking the advice of our officers who fully understand the planning scheme, and we have a recommendation there that simply says that council approve the development application, and that is my decision on this.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Speaker in favour. The seconder wish to speak in favour?
Nothing further to add, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Is there an amendment to the motion? I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against? That is carried 8 votes to nil. Let's move on, councillors. We now go to item 12.1.3, proposed road closure, portion of road reserve Beach Street. And the item is on page 43 of our agendas, the recommendation on page 45. Are there any questions you have on this to Mr. Henley? No questions? Okay, so is someone prepared to move the motion then? Councillor, they're sharing them around, are they?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah.
I move that council, do I need to read all four or could I?
Oh, yes, please, just
Yes.
read the basis of the motion.
I move the officer's recommendation that Council 1 request the Minister of Lands to close the portion of the road reserved for the intersection of Beach Street and Fisheries Road adjoining Lot 202, subsection 2, Beach Street, Castletown, under Section 58(1) of the Land Administration Act 1997. 2. Request the Minister of Lands amalgamate the closed portion of road with Lot 202 in brackets 2 Beach Street, Castletown. 3. Advise the Minister of Lands that in accordance with Section 56 paragraph 4 of the Land Administration Act 1994 that the Shire recognises that it is liable to indemnify the Minister against any claim for compensation in an amount equal to the amount of all costs and expenses reasonably incurred by the Minister in considering and granting the request. And finally, point 4, requires all costs associated with the road closure process in regard to title adjustments and new titles to be met by the applicant.
Thank you, Councillor Oborne has moved the motion. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Horam has seconded the motion. Councillor Oborne, do you wish to speak to it?
Just simply to say we've had something similar previously, so this decision would be consistent with previous similar decisions, and I note that there were no objections received.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Would the seconder like to speak in favour?
I agree with what Councillor Oborne said. I also went out and had a look at it, and I don't see any issues with it at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the speaker against the motion or an amendment? I put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against? That is carried 8 votes to 0. We go to item 12.1.4, Esplance Museum winter close, and this is on page 46 of your agenda, and the recommendations on page 47. Any questions you might have on this item to Mrs. Phillips isn't here, the CEO. Yep. Any questions you might have for the CEO on this item? No questions? Is someone prepared to move the motion? Councillor De Haas.
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that council note the Esplance Museum will be closed for the period commencing 18th July 2022 and concluding on the 1st of September 2022.
Thank you, Councillor De Haas. Seconded by Councillor Oborne. Councillor De Haas, you can speak to your motion.
I guess this really is just a small winter break for the staff who've done an absolutely fantastic job through the trying times in the last 12 months. A well-needed break for them. Thank you. And the volunteers. Thank you, Councillor Mullen.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? No speakers against. Speaker in favour. The seconder wish to speak in favour.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to thank the volunteers because our museum wouldn't operate the way it does without them. And over the cold winter months, when most of our volunteers like to have a well-deserved holiday up north, I think it would be wrong of us to say we want to keep it open and deprive you of that. But also the staff have found really big projects they wouldn't otherwise get a chance to do if we don't give them this time, and it's only a few weeks.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against? Is there an amendment? I'll put to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against? That is carried 8 votes to 0. Councillors, we now move on to item 12.1.5, waiving of venue fees for the Esplance Basketball Association on page 48 of your agendas, with a recommendation on page 49. Is someone prepared to move? Oh, is there any questions first up to the CEO? No questions? Then somebody prepared to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Horan.
Yes, I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that council waive the venue fees totaling $4,072 for the Esplance Indoor Sports Stadium, Graham Mackenzie Stadium and the Noel White Centre for the Esplance Basketball Association for the NBL 1 game and associated events occurring from 8th to the 11th of July 2022.
Thank you, councillor Horan. Is there a speaker against this motion? Seconder wish to, I didn't get a seconder. I've got a seconder to the motion. You've heard it read. Everywhere, councillor McMullen. Thank you. So now, councillor Horan, would you like to speak?
I think this is a fantastic opportunity for Esplance. We've built as they always say, build it and they will come, and this is what's happened. We've got the stadium and now we've got top sports people coming to Esplance. I couldn't think of a better outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against? Seconder wish to speak to it?
Oh, just quickly, I think this is fantastic, and congratulations to the Esplance Basketball Association for arranging this. I mean, locally we've got over 800 competitors and a fantastic new facility down there, and it's going to be great to see the Kalgoorlie Giants and the Southwest Slammers fight it out for it's going to be fantastic. Really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against any amendments? None. Councillors, this requires an absolute majority. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried 8 votes to 0. Thank you. We move on now to page 51 in our agendas, which is the in the asset management. The item is item 12.2.1, Bandy Creek Boat Harbour dredging and sandbag passing trial. So page 51 and the recommendations on page 53. Are there any questions you might have to Mr. Walker on this item now? No questions? Somebody prepared to move the motion? Councillor Flanagan.
Mr. President, would it be possible for me to move an amended motion?
Well, if you're moving something, that'll be the motion, so this is what we consider. Because you...
Just a motion?
Yeah, yes.
Yep, beautiful. I would like to move a motion which essentially substantively is the current motion before council.
That's the one on the board up there, is it, Councillor Flanagan?
It is, so the one that's contained in the agenda stops at B. The motion that I'm putting to council includes an additional clause which relates to just defining or ensuring that the report that's presented back to council.
Well, if you read that to us,
I think that's probably a good idea. Thank you. So that so the addition is that. Oh well, I'll read the whole motion if that's necessary.
Yes.
That council note the update on the coordinated Bandy Creek Boat Harbour dredging and sandbag passing trial, and 2, request the Chief Executive Officer to A, seek funding for the installation of a permanent back-passing pipeline and other infrastructure so that the coordinated Bandy Creek Boat Harbour dredging and sandbag passing can occur biennially at a significantly reduced cost. B, bring a report to council before accepting any grant funding for permanent back-passing pipeline and other infrastructure so that council can make a final determination to proceed with the project. And C, that the report to council contains an assessment of the coordinated Bandy Creek dredging and sandbag passing trial and revised capital and operating financial estimates for the installation of permanent back passing infrastructure against the assumptions and recommendations set out in the BMT Esplance Bay dredging and sand back passing report dated March 2019.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Flanagan. Now, please, do I have a seconder? Councillor McMullen? Seconds it. Councillor, you can speak to it, Councillor Flanagan.
At last, thank you, Mr. President. So the reason I've actually moved the additional clause is that councillors would be aware that in July 2018, council resolved to proceed with the sand backpassing program based on a report prepared by BMT dated July 2018. The sand backpassing that was presented to council was based on a temporary installation, so temporary piping, pumping and the like. Trying to think of the date, March 2019, a further assessment was undertaken by BMT based on the installation of permanent infrastructure, which took into account a whole range of different factors, including the capital and operating costs associated with the permanent installation, and conducted an assessment against all other options that were considered in the original report. And I believe in council, a report being presented back to council, that there should be an assessment against the assumptions and the recommendations made in that report, so that just closes the loop.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation, and speaking in favour of it, Councillor Flanagan. Is there a speaker against the motion? Does the seconder like to speak to the motion?
There's already been a lot spoken for. I can't really add too much to that. But just want a big thank you to all the staff that have actually sort of, run this project, because it's really, really good to see that it's, looking very likely that we're going to have a permanent long-term solution to the erosion problem that we're experiencing. And this is just fantastic, and it'd be great to one day finally see the complete end of dumping truckloads of sand on our foreshore. So thank you.
Is there a speaker against the motion? Or is there an amendment to the motion? There's no speaker against the motion, no amendment. I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried 8 votes to 0. Thank you, councillors. We move on then to the Corporate and Community Services agenda, and so we go to item 12.3.1, proposed new Shire of Esplance local law, Esplance dog local law. I've got to get that right, sorry. On page 56 of your agenda, and the recommendations on page 58. Is there any questions you might have? Yeah.
Second question, on page...
Microphone, yep.
I thought of that earlier. On page 66, the determination, for item 4.6 is determination of application. You determine the application for a licence of local government is to have regard to A, the matters referred to in clause 4.8. I'm just wondering whether that should be 4.7, not 4.8, as 4.8 is the conditions of approval, whereas item 4.7 is where application cannot be approved.
Okay, do we have a typo there? Can anybody explain? Let's see.
Look, we'll have a look at that. However, look, if it is a reference, we can make changes to that reference, and it's not going to make significant change. We can put it out for advertising and still make changes before it's an endorsed local law. So that's fine. Thanks for that. We'll check that one out.
Thank you, that's all right. So then, do I have any other questions? Any councillors have any further questions? I should have referred that to Mrs. Baxter, I guess. My apologies. But any questions to Mrs. Baxter on that local law? If not, is someone prepared to move the recommendations? Councillor Chambers.
I move the officer's recommendation that council request the CEO to give local public notice of the proposed Shire of Esplance Dog Local Law 2022 in accordance with section 3.123 of the Local Government Act 1995, and 2, forward a copy of the proposed local law and public notices to the Minister for Local Government, and 3, prepare a further report at the conclusion of the public submission period to enable council to consider submissions.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Chambers, seconded by Councillor McMullen. Councillor Chambers, speak to your motion, please.
This is a review of the local law now that there's been some changes at a high level. I'd just like to thank the staff for doing a great job. I think the local law certainly defines dog ownership a lot better, and I hope to see a good uptake on the rules and regulations contained within it.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Second, I'd like to speak to the motion, Councillor McMullen.
Thank you. I second what Councillor Chambers said. Thanks to the staff for putting this all together. We had a couple of decent briefing sessions on this. I would just like to point out that I'm very, very happy that we are increasing by a factor of 5 the penalty for not picking after your dog. So hopefully our foreshore looks even more beautiful after this local law is enforced.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Speaker in favour? Speaker against or amendment? Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried. Councillors, that required an absolute majority because it was proposing a local law, and certainly we had a 8 out of 8, so definitely an absolute majority, isn't it? Let's move on then to item 12.3.2, the Lions Club lease, and this is on page 74 of your agenda. Are there any questions concerning this item? Any questions you might have? Go to Mrs. Baxter. No questions. Is someone prepared to move the recommendation concerning that lease? Councillor Graham.
Yes, I'll do this. The officers, I'd like to move the officers' recommendation that council, subject to Lands approval, Department of Lands approval, enter into a lease with the Lions Club of a portion of 487 Goldfields Road and lot 983 Walmsley Street, Castletown. 2, the lease term being 20 years. 3, charge the annual lease fee of $110, including GST. 4, charge a lease preparation fee of $130, including GST. And 5, assume complete responsibility for all of the playground and park maintenance requirements.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor McMullen. Councillor Graham, you can speak to your motion.
Yeah, just like to make special reference to the Lions Club of Esplance for their long period of maintenance and upkeep on this, and providing one of the very good playgrounds for the Esplance community, and especially in that area. Obviously they're still being involved, but obviously the difficulty in maintaining it is a part of this motion, and the council will look after it from now on. So thanks to the Lions Club for creating a great asset. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Is there a speaker against the motion? A second, I'd like to speak to it. Councillor McMullen. Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion or an amendment? No speakers against or no amendment. I put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that's carried 8-0. We go on now, councillors, to page 79 of your agenda, the Financial Services Report. The recommendation is on Councillor 79. Items on Councillor 74 are on page 74. So, councillors, are there any questions to Mrs. Baxter? No questions? Somebody prepared to move the officer's recommendation on this item? Councillor Horan.
Yes, I'd like to move the officer's recommendation to receive the tax report entitled Monthly Financial Services Report, incorporating the statement of financial activity month of May 2023.
councillor Horan. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Flanagan, seconded. Councillor Horan, did you wish to speak to the motion? Is there a speaker against? Seconder wish to speak?
No, thank you.
Is there a speaker against or an amendment? No speaker against, no amendment. I'll put to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that's carried 8-0. Councillors, we go to item 12.3.3, the long-term financial plan 2022 to 2032. The item's on page 128 and the recommendations is on page 132. Are there any questions to Mrs. Baxter on this report? Any? No? No questions? Then there's a recommendation there for you, councillors. Someone prepared to move the recommendation. Page 132. Councillor Chambers.
Move the officer's recommendation that council adopt the long-term financial plan, 2022, 2023 to 2031 to 2032, and request the Chief Executive Officer give local public notice of the reviewed long-term financial plan and update the council plan to include the financial summary as per the requirements of the Local Government Act 1995.
Thank you, councillor. Is there a second to that motion? Thank you, councillor De Haas. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. President. The long-term financial plan points to where the financial aspirations of the local government for the next 10 years. As you can see when you look at it, there's an exorbitant amount of work and time that goes into preparing it, to looking forward to it. I'd like to thank the staff involved, in particular Mr. Baxter, the CEO for the direction and for the work that's been done, and the councillors and the time that they put into to get this. It's a great read for people to get an idea of where we're heading.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Does the seconder wish to speak? Thank you. Is there a speaker against? Councillors, I'd just like to speak in favour to just make a couple of points. As has been said by the previous speakers, it's work very well done, but I couldn't imagine a worse time to be preparing a 5-year forward financial plan when we really don't know where the world is moving to. The world economy, I think, is moving at a rate that we in our lives haven't ever experienced, and I think that there are so many unknowns going forward that to try and put a financial plan together that was going to be accurate is just about impossible. I think we'll look back on this plan and we'll judge it at the end of time, and we'll be lucky if we could say we did that really well. So the measurement will be at a later date, but all things have been taken into consideration, and to try and make sure that we get a plan as accurate as possible, with reasonable levels of rating, with reasonable levels of payment to our staff to keep the organisation running so strongly. And I think that it's the best we can do today, and it'll be measured by others in the longer term, not in the short term. Is there a speaker against or an amendment? I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against? That is carried. So we go on, councillors, to item 12.3.5, the 2022-23 Community Grants Program. That's on page 149 of your agendas. with a recommendation on page 151. Any questions you might have to Mrs. Baxter on this one? No questions? Someone prepared to move the motion? No, don't. Someone prepared to move the motion? Don't make me go to third time. Councillor De Haas has moved. Thank you. You'd like to read the motion, Councillor De Haas? No, no, that's fine. Okay. Thank you, Councillor De Haas. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Oborne has seconded. Councillor De Haas? Thank you. Does the seconder wish, sorry, is there a speaker against? Does the seconder wish to speak in favour? Could I just have one question answered here for Councillor Chambers, who wasn't here at the time? Would you like to ask a question of the CEO in regards to the football, Esplance Football Club?
Sorry. Yeah, it was in regards. It was in regards to the amount for the Esplance Football Club. On the minutes, or on the agenda, it read 157. But I see that the if you can scroll up just slightly, the other way, sorry, down. You can see that the amount was changed to $1,130, which was in line with what the money that we'd given the Ports Football Club for their lighting. So it was just me waiting patiently. Thank you.
Okay. So now the speaker, we've had a speaker in favour and the second has spoken. Is there any other speakers or amendments? So then we go to vote on this, councillors. If you're ready to vote, and this requires an absolute majority. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried 8 votes to 0. Thank you. Let's move on then to executive services, and we have 12.4.1, the WA Local Government Association Convention, and this is on page 155 of your agenda. Are there any questions you might have on this? No questions? Someone prepared to move the motion? We should have some nominations here, I think. We need to fill the first one in with nominations. Perhaps I could be cheeky here and suggest that I would like to be nominated as a representative of the council. Don't get the result I got last year. Councillor Owen.
I would like to nominate Councillors Mickle and House.
Right, Councillor Mickle and the House, that can be amended now, councillors, as we move forward. And then we need to fill in those people who have indicated they wish to attend. Do we have a list of those people yet? Have they advised? So the wording might be able to be changed there then, that register councillors who express an interest to attend. Yep. Oh, yeah, right there.
So we've got McMullen, Horan, DeHaas, Chambers, Mickle, O'Bourne.
And we need to check.
Attending? Yes.
Oh,
Not?
and we'd have to check with Councillor Graham. Yeah, Graham. Okay. Yeah, that's one that I was just. I think she should be added to the list if she's. Yeah, but she's absent here tonight, so we'll check with her and add her to the list. Is that okay? All councillors are happy with. Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Add her in, because she's attended before and said she very much enjoyed it. Okay, so we've got a completed motion now, do we? We'll fill those names in. Is someone prepared to move the recommendation? Somebody? Is that? Yes, yes. Right, okay, Councillor O'Brien, if you wish to move that motion as it is, please. Thank you, Councillor O'Bourne. Is there a second to the motion? Seconder to the motion. Councillor Horan. Thank you. It's moved and seconded. Councillor O'Bourne, you can speak to your motion. Okay, is there a speaker against the motion? Speaker in favour goes to the seconder. Councillor Horan, do you have anything to add? Is there a speaker against the motion or an amendment? No one speaking against or an amendment. Those in favour, please show. Against, that's carried 8-0. Thank you. So now we go to item 12.4.2, the information bulletin, which is on page 163 of your agendas. Do you have any questions on this one to Mr. Burge? Any questions? No questions then? Somebody prepared to move that the council accept the information bulletin, etc. Moved by Councillor Flanagan.
Mr. President, I move the opposite recommendation that council accepts. Number 1, information bulletin May 2022. Number 2, council priority summary corporate performance May 2022. And 3, delegations discharge corporate resources.
Thank you, Councillor Flanagan. Is there a seconder to the motion? Seconder to the motion, Councillor De Haas. It's moved and seconded. Councillor Flanagan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. As is stated every month, this is such a wonderful report that councillors that should read through and see the excellent work that our council officers and staff are achieving. And I would encourage every ratepayer at one point in their life actually read through and see what actually has done through the answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker against? Seconder wish to speak? Is there any speakers against or amendments? Put to the vote. Those in favour show. That is carried 8 votes to 0. Now we move on, councillors, to the 12.4.3, which is the public transport trial MOU, and that is on page 192 of your agendas. Any questions you might have on this to Mr. Burge? No questions? Okay, someone prepared to move the motion then on page 193. Councillor Flanagan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move the officer's recommendation that council acknowledge the public consultation that the Public Transport Authority conducted in relation to the public bus service trial. Number 2, endorse a memorandum of understanding entitled Provision of the Esplance Trial Bus Service.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Flanagan. Is there a seconder to the motion? Seconded by Councillor Horan. Councillor Flanagan, speak to your motion.
I'm just so happy that Esplance, as one of the major regional towns in Western Australia, is one of the only ones that doesn't have a public bus service. And funnily enough, in my previous life, I used to run regional town bus services for a number of years. So, and have just probably an insight into some of the background around Esplance not having a public bus service. It's great to see that they're putting forward 3 different bus routes, which is unusual for a small bus trial. It's great that the Public Transport Authority are putting most of the bill. I think our contribution is about $60,000. And I would just encourage everybody to have a look at just access the service to ensure that it is actually a successful trial. And I hope that it does what public transport always sets out to do, which is to assist those that don't have the wherewithal, the capability or the financial resources to have their own transport. And this is a cheap and easy way for people to move around their space.
Thank you for that. Is there a speaker against the motion? Seconder like to speak to the motion?
The motion's already been set, but I'm glad I seconded it and not moved it. I just think that it's a great service that can be some time. It's just that's truly what's needed, and people would patronise it.
Speaker against the motion or an amendment? I put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried. Well spoken, Councillor Flanagan, on that one. We now go to the item 12.4.5. My apologies, 12.4.4, the clock tower funding request, which is on page 215 of your agenda. Are there any questions you might have to Mr. Burge on this item? No questions? Councillors, is someone prepared to move the motion then? Councillor De Haas.
Just turn your microphone on.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor De Haas. Is there a second to the motion? Councillor Horan. Councillor De Haas, you can speak to your motion. Thank you, Councillor De Haas. Is there a speaker against the motion? Okay, so seconded. Do you wish to speak in favour of the motion? Is there a speaker against or an amendment? Councillors, I'd just speak in favour of it. I'd like to say that I think we're getting close to getting the compliance issue solved here. I think we've got commitment of dollars to it coming forward. We certainly hope we do to make this add up at the end of the day, but it's just important that we get the compliance done and the work done to get the compliance done. And I appreciate the comments that Councillor De Haas has put into this subject as well. This requires an absolute majority of the voting on this, councillors, and that's because it's an unbudgeted item. Of course, when we were doing our budgets last year, we didn't realise we'd be in this position that we could get this project resolved this year, so it's an unbudgeted expense. So I think no one else wants to speak since I've spoken. I'll put the motion to the vote then. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried. 8 votes to nil. Thank you. We move on then to the 12.4.5 legislative impact of volunteer bushfire brigades, proposed Walga advocacy position, and that is on page 227 of your agendas with a recommendation on page 230. Are there any questions you might have to Mr. Burge on this one? No questions to Mr. Burge? Good. Then somebody prepared to move the motion. Councillor Chambers.
Prepared to move the officer's recommendation that council advise Walga the preferred position of the Shire of Esperance in the future management of bushfire brigades as per the Walga document arrangements for management of volunteer bushfire brigades is option 2. Improvements. Continue with the current arrangements for local government management of bushfire brigades with the additional support provided by the state government with respect to increased funding and better access to training, resources and other support.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Chambers. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Vaughan. Councillor Chambers, you can speak to your motion.
The volunteers of the Essex Bushfire Brigade work exceptionally well and have proven themselves over many years in fighting some rather major fires within Esperance and within the district, and even going outside of the district to assist. I believe that the way that they work does not need to be interfered with in any way, shape or form. I also understand through reading this document that there are the shires that do have less efficient or less capacity to manage the bushfire brigades, and giving them a pathway to improve what they have is important. But as far as Esplance is concerned, I really don't want to try to fix what's not broken.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Does the seconder wish to speak in favour?
Just to endorse what Councillor Chambers said, it's not broken, it doesn't need to be fixed, and I noticed, I thought it was a huge statistic that 17 brigades and 700 volunteers that the Shire takes responsible for, they overwhelmingly much remain under this model. So again, it's not broken, don't fix it, but of course we always wait for more support and finance resources from the state government.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against? Just to invite Councillor Graham as the chair of that committee, the Bushfire Advisory Committee. Would you like to make any comments, Councillor?
Oh no, I guess Esperance is a lot different to a lot of other sectors of the state, and we've proven, as we've heard, of this model being the best arrangement. I guess it's always good to have that first word, improvements, because we can always continue to improve the way that we do things, and the way that we are equipped, and the way we support our volunteers in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Is there a speaker against or an amendment? I put to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried. 8 votes to nil. Go to item 12.4.6, a review policy, elected member and staff training policies. This item is on page 245.
Financial interest,
Yeah.
that's all.
Certainly, and so did Councillor DeHaas. Okay, thank you. This item is on page 245, recommendation on page 246. Councillors, those two councillors who have declared financial interest have left the chamber, and so I will ask if there are any questions to Mr. Burge on this. No questions? Okay, someone prepared to move the motion. Councillor O'Bourne.
I move the officer's recommendation that council adopt the updated policies EXE031, elected member professional development, and HR 002 staff entitlements.
Right, it's been moved by Councillor Oborne. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded Councillor Horam. Councillor Oborne.
Yeah, so as briefed by the CEO last week, often you'll have staff really keen in an area but not necessarily qualified. And so the change to this policy just means that when you find someone with skills and aptitude and desire to want to continue in a role, when we're struggling to fill roles, let's get behind them and help them to get the qualifications that they need to remain or to advance in those various departments. But keeping some skin in the game, where they're contributing 25%. So it's going to be good for our organisation to upskill people.
Thank you, Councillor Oborne. A speaker against? With the second, I'd like to speak to the motion. Speak in favour.
Yeah, I just confirm what Councillor Oborne said, but also if there's training available and you've got somebody keen, why wouldn't you take it on? Thank you.
Okay, so a speaker against? Speaker in favour. Councillors, I'll enter the debate on this one. Now, look, I fully support this process. I mean, educating people going forward is very, very important. I know there's been some question marks, might have been asked why councillors. Well, I'll tell you exactly why. Councillors are required to do significant training when they first are appointed to the council, but there's until the training program is called the Diploma. The local government diploma was developed 4 or 5 years ago. There was no supplementary education for elected members, and so I believe that very important that we give them the opportunity to learn more about their responsibilities, to build their skills, and that certainly the professionalism from that will flow through to the local government in which they're involved with. And yes, the same rules should apply to the elected members as it does to the staff, that they should pay at least 25%, so they've got, as the words used, skin in the game. They have contributed towards their upskilling, and I think that that's it's a really improvement of our policies going forward. The limitations of $3,000 in this day and age, and operating in this community so far from the centre where professional training takes place, I think is absolutely essential, and so I'd encourage you all to vote in favour of this item. Any speakers against? No speakers against. No amendment. Put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against. Now that is requires an absolute majority, but 5 is an absolute majority. And we had 6 voted in favour of it. So 6-0. Okay, let's move on. Councillors return to the chamber, so we go to item. We're moving into reports of committees. Are there any reports of committees, Mr. CEO? No. Okay. Motions of which notice has been given. Are there any of those? Members' questions with or without notice. Are there any questions from members that they might want to? No. Yeah. Urgent business approved by decision. Is there any urgent business? So then we go to the items, matters behind closed doors. And so I'll bring forward public question time. Opportunity to ask questions. Dr. Newkirk, do you wish to ask a question? Okay. Well then, would somebody please move? Councillor, move that we go behind closed doors. Moved by Councillor Graham.
I'd like to move that we go behind closed doors.
Seconded.
For the rest of the
Seconded, Councillor De Haas. So it's moved and seconded. I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour. That is carried 8 votes to 0. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. We have just come out from behind closed doors, and I advise those people that are watching online that council made a number of decisions behind closed doors, predominantly on tenders, but I'll explain. There were tenders for the supply and delivery of cement and concrete, of which we only have one tenderer, and that was accepted. There was a tender for the supply and delivery of blue metal, of which we only had one tenderer, and that was accepted. We had another tender was for the supply and delivery of stormwater drainage products, and that was carried. We had a tender for the supply and fitting of tyres, and we had a successful tender there in Continental Tyres. Esplance combined tyres, my apologies there. And then we go to item 17.4, which was a motion concerning Esplance Home Care. There were alternate staff retention allowances there, and the motion, I should probably read the motion as it was correctly put there on that one. My apologies, it's up on there. The council provided payment in lieu of staff retention allowances to eligible employees who have worked at Esplance Home Care during 2021-22 financial year as outlined below. A one-off cash payment equal to $1.50 per hour worked during the 2021-22 financial year for levels 2 to 6 direct care workers, and a one-off cash payment equal to $1 per hour worked during the 2021-22 financial year for levels 4 to 11 administrative officers and supervisors, and that was carried by an absolute majority. And further to that, we had a matter that related to the write-off of a debt from a company that went into liquidation, and the recommendation was that council write off $5,494 outstanding for the debtor. The motion was lost. The voting was equal 4-4 on that, which is not an absolute majority, and so that motion was lost. And then I think final item that we dealt with was a block of land in Flinders where we had a tender for it, and the tenderer offered $180,000 for the lot in Ascot Turn, and it was accepted. We accepted that offer, carried by an absolute majority. So we thank all those people that are watching online for being part of the meeting with us tonight. Hopefully you've been able to follow through, and I'd like to extend sincere thanks to all of our councillors and staff here tonight that worked through the meeting to get decisions on all items of the agenda, with the exception of that one item in the behind closed doors. And I declare the meeting closed.
Microphone testing 1. Microphone test. Microphone test. Microphone test. Microphone test. Guest microphone. Microphone test. Microphone test. Okay, turn it off. Microphone test. Microphone test. Microphone test. That's what we're testing, yep. Testing for Leonie's microphone. Testing. Testing for Leonie's microphone. Bit further back. Turn it off. Microphone test. Microphone test number 2 for Leonie. Microphone test, Councillor Graham. Microphone test 2, Councillor Graham. Microphone test Chambers. Microphone test for Chambers. Microphone test 2. Let me just do it now. Microphone test for Ian. Microphone test for Shane. Microphone test for Shane. Yep, turn it. Microphone test 2, Shane. Microphone test for Councillor Flanagan. Microphone. Microphone test for Councillor Flanagan. Microphone test 2. Microphone test for Councillor Oborne. Microphone test 2 for Councillor Oborne. Microphone test 2. Last one. Microphone test for Matt Walker. Microphone test 2 for Matt Walker. Testing over.